got what you wanted, but you got what you need. Now you got what you wanted, you ain't got what you need. You ain't got what you wanted, but you got what you need. Now you got what you wanted, but you ain't got what you need. No one said it'd be easy, no one said it'd be good. No one ever tried to teach me, even though I wish they would. Hey, what up, world? This is Big Prophet Jewel Podcast. I am honored to have the guest with me, Joia Nuri. She is a business teacher, leadership coach, and also she teaches uh, public speaking. Thank you so much for joining with me.
Oh, very nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Great, great, great. So, what got you started into public speaking and teaching people leadership?
Being the leadership coach, yeah, I am a certified leadership coach and public speaking coach. And I had a long career in network television news as a producer, and then I spent a decade or more as a human rights communication strategist for international human rights organizations. But then I got to a point where I'm like, what part of this do I actually love to do? And most of it I realized I didn't. I was tired of it. I was tired of dealing with the media. I was tired, even after spending 30 years in it. I was tired. And I had to sit down and ask myself what I enjoyed doing the most. And what I enjoyed doing the most out of all of that was um, the public speaking coaching. That I loved getting people ready to do the public speaking coaching. And getting ready for their speeches. So I started on this journey to help people get TED Talks and to help people while they were doing their um, commencement speeches or Martin Luther King Day speeches. And after a few years of doing that, I loved it. I wanted to add something else on, whereas the second stream of income. And my friends told me what they would pay for is a leadership coach for their executives. And so I went back to school. I figured out what this leadership coaching thing is. I got a degree and I got certified as a executive leadership coach with the International Coaching Federation. And surprisingly to me, when I started this business, no white people ever hired me.
Oh, really?
I think I had two white men hire me, and they were all Black women. So I just decided I'm going to stay here and surrender to what I'm being told to do. So, and I love what I do now. I love what I do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, what would you say makes a leader?
I think in our own ways, we're all leaders. We're leaders in different ways. You're the leader of your household. You're the leader of your friends. You're the leader of your church. You're the leader of your sorority, fraternity. You have these things you do that make you a leader. You may not be the head leader, but there's something you do that is perfect and that you do well. And then you have to identify that and do that. I think what makes the head leader is someone who is so comfortable in their own skin that they know what their intuition is telling them, and they know that could be right. Everybody can be the leader. Everybody can be the CEO, but not everybody can be the good CEO.
Okay. So, what makes a good public speaker?
Again, someone comfortable in their skin. Someone so comfortable in their skin that when they stand up to make the speech, they're not looking at themselves.
Mm.
I find that 99% of the time, the people I meet who come to me for coaching, the reason they're a bad public speaker is that they're standing there going, I shouldn't have wore this suit. Oh, my hair is a mess. They're going to think I'm stupid. Oh my God, why am I standing here? I'm so nervous about doing this. That's all they're thinking about. They're not connected to the words on the page.
Right.
They're not connected. You have to be married to the content.
Wow. Yeah.
So what you're saying is the most important thing. The people who came to see you speak don't care what you're wearing. They're not looking at your hair. They don't care that you didn't shine your shoes. They're looking, they came to hear what you have to say. So the moment you get dressed in the morning and you sit down to the Zoom call or you go out to make that speech, that's when you stop looking at yourself. And you are the subject matter expert to tell that story. That's what makes a good public speaking coach. I mean, presenter.
That's great. So you have
Yeah,
a podcast called Unshackled Leadership, a lantern for Black women.
I do. We're in our second season. And like you, people kept telling me I should do a podcast. And I couldn't figure out why I should do a podcast. And then I realized I wanted to do a podcast so I could reach more women than the women who come to my sessions. You know, I can reach one woman at a time in my session, but I could reach thousands of women in the podcast. And it's called Unshackled Leadership, a lantern for Black women, because we are very shackled by the world about being the head person. We are very shackled by racism, misogyny, and all the things that limit our growth and our inner critic that limit our growth. And the lantern is for my hero, Harriet Tubman, a
Wow,
lantern for Black women. My
that's
hero is
so
Harriet
powerful.
Tubman. My girl picked up a gun to free her people. You hear me? She picked up a gun. And I love her. And the funny part about it is, she died 50 years to the day that I was born.
Wow.
And I'm like, on my birthday, okay, is her death day. And so I feel this connection to her. So, Unshackled Leadership, a lantern for Black women, is my homage to Harriet Tubman and the ability to talk to Black women all over the world. I'm the number one podcast in Kenya.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and Apple told me that. I had no idea how that happened, but Apple sent me a note. And so that was wonderful. And the podcast covers a lot of things. Now we've done how to get a bank loan while Black. We've done your sensuality at home and in the office. And we have an upcoming shows on um, why it's important to have good girlfriends, even if your good girlfriend is a man. And we're talking to women of color from different places in the world. One from Nicaragua who was tortured by her government and left in solitary confinement for over 600 days.
Wow.
And another one who lives in India, who is one of the lower caste people, and how hard it is to be brown, dark brown, and live in India. So to stretch out the stories we tell. So thanks for mentioning my podcast. It it's a thrill to meet these women and do these interviews. Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to a little bit before our conversation, and yeah, it just seems like a great thing that you're doing.
Oh,
It's amazing.
thank you.
I really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Um, Also, like, I'm very interested to know more about who are your inspirations. You mentioned Harriet Tubman, but who else
Yeah.
inspires you?
My grandmother, who was a rock. And I remember when I was a little kid, these white guys came to the house and told her that she didn't really own the house
Mm.
and that they're going to evict her. Well, these men had nothing to do with the bank. My grandmother owned a house so big, two families lived in it. She had a quarter of an acre in the backyard, seven garages, swings, apple trees. And we were in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, good.
And these men in 19, whatever it was, couldn't believe any bank would give a Negro woman this house. And as they're fussing at her at this door, my grandmother never moved. She never batted an eye. She never said a word to these men. And they'd already stepped into the living room. And when she thought she'd heard enough, she reached up, grabbed the door, and pushed it and closed the door and went to the bedroom and prayed.
Oh,
That's all she leaned into. She wasn't going to sway her arms around or be part of all of this consternation. She was going to hear them, stand in silence, and close the door. She's quite the inspiration for strength and dignity for me. She also walked like she was a queen. Like, she's from Macon, Georgia. She's an inspiration. Oh, I've had tons of them in my lifetime. I've had friends who have inspired me. So Harriet Tubman, actually Robert Kennedy was a political inspiration, and Black Panthers, political inspiration. And I gained inspiration from Alice Walker and authors like Marita Golden, Toni Morrison, in how to perfect living as a Black person in this globe and do it with dignity and grace and still hold on to your love.
it's amazing.
That's, yeah,
Yeah, my
thank you.
grandmother recently passed, and actually it's
Oh,
her
I'm
funeral
sorry.
today, and she's the definition of a queen to me, and just how you
Yeah,
speak about strength and dignity and grace, just how she moves.
yeah,
It's just,
yeah. And
and
when you can have that, we're fortunate to have that. You're fortunate to have your grandmother this late in your life, you
right,
know, that she's seen you at adulthood. That's my goal, to live long enough to see my grandsons as adults. I mean, like 30-year-old adults.
yeah.
Because right now I look at them and they're 9 and 3, and I'm like, you're crazy. I'd love to see how this turns out. I really want to live long enough to see how it turns out. And your grandmother got to see how it turned out for you.
Yeah, and she got to
Yeah,
see her great grands too, so
yeah.
it's a beautiful thing.
That's nice. That is very nice. Very
Yeah,
nice. Yeah,
she's
very
definitely an
nice.
inspiration in many ways, and it's just, yeah, she told me stories like that too. Like she's from Nova Scotia in Canada.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There was racism there where she told me when she was a little child they chased them out of the town and everything, and um yeah, they were running for and hiding for their life.
Wow.
And it's just
Wow.
like you don't really hear these stories. um like you have to hear it from the person. You don't hear it in the history books, or you don't hear it in history
Yeah.
class.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
So
how long did it take us to get the detail around Tulsa?
right,
You know,
yeah,
how long before that became a mainstream story? But these people lived it. And it was only because you created your own abundance. You created a life that didn't require white people's permission. And for some reason, that seems to be the most threatening of any of it, you know, that your independence is a threat. Your
right,
ability to read, comprehend, and translate that into wealth is a threat. Um, and I know your program is about mental health, but that is a mental health problem.
for sure.
Racism is a major mental health problem. On these things, I never know where to look. I don't know if I look at myself here or if I look at you. It's more comfortable to look at you. So if the audience thinks I'm crazy, I'm doing this for a month and coming back to you, it's just easier for me to look at you than to look at me. Okay.
No problem, no problem. But you brought up some great points, and like one of the things, when was studying psychology, like I noticed that there's definitely a difference between mainstream, or like you were saying, Eurocentric psychology, and then what would
Hmm.
apply for Black people. And it's like we live in a different reality, it seems, because we face different challenges and different history, and there's a lot of um, factors that aren't considered, and we need more people um, that understand us to speak to us, like that we can speak to,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't really, I think that's another thing too. Like I have this friend of mine that's going to be a guest soon too, and she's a social worker, and she was just saying how much when she was going through her own situations, how much she didn't have an opportunity to talk to someone that looked like her, and
Yeah.
she just felt lost because of that. It's really hard to find someone that looks like us to in a professional uh, setting.
Yeah. It is very important to your mental health to be surrounded with people who look like you, who have cultural connections with you. It is a lonely space to be with people who do spend too much time with people who don't look like you, or at least the group is mixed. So somebody in the group looks like you, because what happens is you release your own tradition, you release your own language, you release your familiarity in order to fit in to that other group. That other group could be white or Asian. But if it's not your group and the majority of the group is that other, you're now going to be learning about that group. You're going to love learning about that group. You're going to take all that in, but there's nobody who understands how your family has Thanksgiving.
Right.
Okay. And there's a common language between this new tribe called the African American tribe that we have created that's different than our origin tribes. But we are now a new tribe of people that we have a culture, a standard, things we do familiar. And whether we know each other or not, you and I could probably talk for the next 5 minutes and somehow come up with something that we both do. And I bet you we talked about our grandmothers long enough. There's something
Oh
they
yeah.
both do that is different than the Chinese grandmother or the Irish grandmother. Okay.
Right.
That we have a common language from being African American. And we are very different than even our African tribes,
Right.
that we our origins. We're very different because we're new. We're new. We're the new tribe of Africa. So I think it's very important to have some connection to your tribal background and to stay as connected to it as you can for your mental stability. Even if you marry somebody who's not your race, even if you have children that are mixed race, you got to find a space where you come to your own. And practitioners, especially. For my daughter, when I was raising my daughter, I insisted that all of her doctors be Black. Her pediatrician, her dentist, they had to be Black, because how was I going to tell her she could be a doctor if she never saw a Black doctor?
Really.
Okay. Yeah. And it was hard. I was on the phone going, "Hi, I'm not a racist. I'm actually Black. Do you have any Black pediatricians in your practice?" "Oh, no, thank you very much." "I am not actually a racist. I'm Black. But do you have any Black pediatricians in your practice?" I was literally doing that when she was a toddler to make sure she had Black doctors. And that's been, I mean, she has her kid of her own now, that the practitioners look like you and can understand you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge thing, and yeah, I could see like there's a lot of problems that happen in the medical field because there's not that understanding, and just because, yeah, there's a lot, especially for Black women. I could like honestly say, and I've seen it. Like my daughter's mother,
Yeah.
things she's dealt with, my mother, things my mother's dealt with, my aunties dealt with, my cousins dealt
Yeah.
with, dealing with
Yeah.
doctors and hospitals, um, girlfriends, friends, like just females. It's
All
just
together. Yeah. It's
yeah,
complicated. It's complicated to get the right information. It's complicated to get the right diagnosis. It's complicated not to be written off. You know,
biggest thing.
it is so often we are at late stage cancers because doctors have not taken the time to listen to us and go past the diagnosis. I mean, go past the test, because the test says there's nothing wrong with you. You're clearly there's something wrong.
Right.
But we're the healthcare system that writes you off. Okay. And I know in the mental health community, that is the worst, because the level of depression
Mm-hmm.
that we suffer that gets written off as stress, but it's clinical and it needs to be addressed. And a lot of healthcare programs for people who are low income don't include mental health, or they only include 20 sessions a year for you to come and get the mental health care. And then we wonder why there are times we look wild in the streets.
Right.
But we're not getting, nobody's addressing it. We're not going to get the help for the most part, because like we're just stressed out. I'm gonna pray, or I'm gonna get high, or I'm gonna drink this beer.
Yeah.
And we're not really addressing it. And then though when we do go get it, it's not addressed as, at the level of, often not addressed at the serious level that we actually are.
Now that's huge, and yeah. So like I started off as a hip hop artist and a
Hmm.
producer, and that's a
Good for
huge
you.
thing in the hip hop community. Is just like I was writing a book on it, and just it's called Hip Hop Guide to Mental Health and Wellness. And the biggest
Oh,
thing,
so necessary.
definitely, and it's just like I know in the hip hop community we don't talk about mental health, and most of the problems we just self medicate. Whether it
Yeah,
be smoking, drinking, or
right,
whatever. But
right.
there's a lot of underlying problems that aren't being confronted in the community. So
I mean, even down to the stories of not, this is not connected to hip hop, this is just connected to the community of the levels of domestic violence.
mm,
No, we will arrest that man over and over and over again, but nobody thinks he needs to go to a mental hospital. We will just demonize him and not look at a chemical imbalance in his head. Nobody's that anger without, you're not born that angry. There are no 3-month-old babies that angry. So life circumstances, cultural circumstances, brutality of the racist culture we live in has created that man. But we don't take responsibility for it. We just keep putting him in jail.
yeah,
And eventually we put him in jail for murder.
yeah,
But we don't think of how many Black men have been shot by cops because they were having a mental health episode that appeared violent. And the cop, out of his own fear, his or her own fear, shoots, as opposed to tasering, arresting him, and putting him in mental health care.
yeah.
It just it's it's just beyond brutal. It's just beyond brutal.
Yeah. Well, the system and the society is built for it's a for-profit prisons. Like the prison
That's
system
it.
is
Yeah,
a business.
it's a
So
business. And
that's what
and
it
and
boils down
we
to.
get fed into the meat grinder at higher numbers than anybody else, followed by Spanish speaking people. You always had to be brown and some level of brown to go to prison. And you are targeted. And when I look at my grandsons, I tear up because right now they're only 9 and 3. I tear up at the thought of the day their parents have to give them the talk, where the biggest threat in your life is going to be your peer and the police. And so there's all this effort now to put them in private schools and to make sure they're in communities where they could be safe when they walk the street. But that generally means taking them away from their own people. You know what? My one grandson who was in a private school, private preschool, but he was the only Black male there. And there was one Black female. And so he didn't have, and they had one Black male teacher, one Black teacher, no, two Black teachers. And he didn't have the ability to connect to his own. So they took him out. His daddy's his influence right now. His mother's his influence right now. His grandmother from West Africa is the influence right now. So how he gets to know himself and gets to know, they're teaching him his prayers, where he'll do his Islamic prayers so that he gets to know he's Black without saying, hey, you're Black. He just gets surrounded by his own. And then we hope, be strong enough to go out to the world at 5 or 6 years old. We pray. We pray. So, yeah. But, we talked about this mental health thing. You don't mind if we talked about this mental health piece with Black people. But we have, I don't know, I'll let you ask your next question and then we'll go on.
No, please keep going.
Okay. As I was saying to you earlier, the mind has created this piece called the inner critic. And this part of the brain is called your prefrontal lobe. And the inner critic, the prefrontal lobe is the last part of the brain to develop. And this inner critic, this voice that keeps telling you what you can't have, what you can't be, what you won't do. And even if you get praise for it, they're just being polite. This place is where it's formed, and it is a place of comparison. It compares you to your past. It compares you to everybody else in the world. It compares what you're doing right now, and it compares you to your imaginary future. And it's constantly there saying what you're not. It's formed in your life, in your mind, in your psyche, somewhere between the ages of 6 and 13. Mm. There are no 3-year-olds with an inner critic. 3-year-olds are invincible.
I'm a 4-year-old, so
yes, invincible. Like today he could be Captain America, and next week he's this, and then he can fly off the sofa. So totally and sees themselves as your equal. They're so confident. Okay, I'm sure your 4-year-old, you have to bat him back sometimes because
she's very confident.
yes, very confident. But somewhere between 8 and 13, generally 6 and 13, usually between 8 and 10, but 6 and 13, something's going to happen that's going to bat down that confidence. It could be something innocent, like you saying, know your place. You're being too loud. Be quiet. Now she doesn't care about it. She say it all day long. 4 years old, she's not going to be quiet. Okay. But you, your wife, the kids at school, a teacher, somebody's going to say something, do something, and in her head, it's going to click that she's not perfect. And that her behavior could be criticized, demeaned. It could be, like I said, it could be something innocent, or it could be something deliberate. For me, it was deliberate attack on me. Okay. And the inner critic forms right there. It could be something brutal. I have a client who was raped at age 6 by an uncle. And the her parents did not support her because the uncle was this revered member of the family, and maybe he was a holy man of some sort, and he was just revered. And of course, you're lying, 6-year-old girl. Why would he stick his fingers in you? And they never believed her, and that's where her inner critic. She was wrong. She wasn't safe anymore in the world. The man did it again to her when she was 13, and once again, her parents said, "No, you're lying. Why are you lying?" And it scarred her into her deep adulthood. So your inner critic can start anywhere, but somewhere you start to realize your parents aren't God. You are a separate being, and you've been traumatized by this thing. And this thing carries with you throughout your whole life and controls your first thoughts. So if somebody tells you were stupid at 6, you'll be fighting that your whole life, your whole life, your whole life, your whole life, until somebody teaches you how to recognize that that is a child talking. Your inner critic never grows one day older than that moment.
Most definitely.
You get a 6-year-old screaming into your 35-year-old head, your 55-year-old head, until you can figure out when it's talking and when to ask it very, very powerful questions. Is that true? Oh, you're stupid. Is that true? Not stupid. And if it is true, is that the only truth?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm stupid. Can I not be stupid? Easily. Especially in a generation you have Google.
Yeah.
You don't go to the library. Just pick up your phone and get smart. And get smart about anything. I mean, I saw something on YouTube recently that there's somebody walking you through brain surgery.
Wow.
I was like, what? Teaching you all the steps of brain surgery. Now, nobody's going to give you a medical license or certify you to go do that.
I wouldn't trust
but the
them
information,
yet.
don't tell me I learned how to do this on YouTube. Like, get out of here. But it's there.
Yeah.
It's there. And so you can learn anything you want in the palm of your hand. And so, no, you're not stupid. But until somebody keeps telling you, until somebody teaches you how to stop that. So, back to the man who beats his wife or commits the crime. Somebody told them what they're not going to be. You'll never be anything. That may have come from school. That came from a parent, a grandparent, your friends. You'll never be anything. You'll never be anything, which means you never leave the neighborhood you're in. Mm-hmm. You never venture to finish your high school because you're never going to be anything. And the first time you get fired, you're going to say, see, they were right, as opposed to, I didn't want that job anyway.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
And I'll go get another one because I have this self-love.
There you go.
That your inner critic bats down. So I think we have mental health problems that are truly clinical, truly chemical imbalance. And that is more than your inner critic. That you need a therapist, you might need meds. But if you could find a coach, a mentor, or somebody who understands how the inner critic works, I bet you 90% of us can overcome with, I don't want to say 90%, I can't predict the number, but a large number of us don't have chemical imbalances. We have an inner critic.
That's definitely true. This might cut off and you could log back in to the same meeting.
Okay, or we can end so I can go do the rest. If that's okay with you? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how quick it is, but yeah, thank you for joining me so much. I really appreciate it. It was a great, amazing conversation. Just met you. I love you already. It's amazing.
Okay. Oh, I love you too. Let's stay in touch, okay?
most definitely.
Okay. My website's in the public eye coaching.
Okay, I'll put it in the
But you
description.
got what you need.
Okay.
Now you got what you wanted. You ain't got what you need. You ain't got what you wanted. But you got what you need. Now you got what you wanted. But you ain't got what you need. No one said it'd be easy. No one said it'd be good. No one ever tried to teach me, even though I wish they would. Everybody playing my games, thinking they in control. About trying to be righteous, announcements with they soul. It's always push and pull. Why it's always run and chase? Some things I wanted forever, and a number of ways. Perfect ain't nothing replace. Feel like I'm running in place. Feel like I'm stuck in a maze. Hoping it just was a phase. And you got what you wanted, but you got what you need. And you got what you wanted. You ain't got what you need. Ain't got what you